Hey, I'm Randy and I'm the Cheap Audio Man. Here at the Cheap Audio Man, we don't feel like hi-fi equipment, speakers, DACs, amps, turntables, receivers, speaker cables should cost more than a jet ski. I don't think a jet ski is a great investment though. But sometimes a speaker comes along and it may be worth the price of a gently used jet ski. I don't know how much jet skis are going for. Anyway, today's the Elac Saturday Speaker Shootout Reference Edition. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the Elac debut reference versus the Elac debut Unifi reference Saturday Speaker Shootout. Underarm deodorant and antiperspirant got you down? Does your significant other recoil in disgust when you lean in for a kiss because you smell like a Bigfoot after he got into a week-old deer carcass? Not anymore. Sasquatch 1000 by Menan. It's an advanced antiperspirant and deodorant with nanotechnology molecules that make you not gross anymore. They're currently in human trials in multiple institutes in the Maryland Correctional facilities. So get yourself some Sasquatch 1000 by Menan. You can get it in single sticks or a 12-stick smell pack. Elac reference shootout. Ooh. So, debut reference. These have been around for, I don't know, a while. How long have they been around? Alls I know, I don't know if that's right. What I do know is that I got these probably a year ago. It was one of like the, I wanted to have this speaker. And one of my first videos I ever did was this speaker. I love it. I love it. I compared it to the RP600M, the Triangle Bro 3, a lot of different speakers. One of my favorite speakers I've ever had. Okay, so was really excited when I got the Elac Unifi reference. Look at them. Aren't they nice? They didn't disappoint. All right, so they both have heather gray grills that are magnetic. The Unifi is a bit rounded on the edges. I guess you can't really tell. All right, so this is the debut reference. This is the Unifi reference, so it's a little bit rounded. Same color, which is quite attractive. They're a handsome grill. They both are made out of the same fake wood-colored wallpaper plastic vinyl wrap. But you know what? I don't care. And vinyl wrap is a lot harder to do on a speaker than you think it is, because I've tried, and of course I screwed it up. All right, on the back, the Unifi reference has biamp capabilities. Oh my goodness, I don't want to shove my shoulder through the driver. The debut reference does not. Did I say the Unifi reference? Anyway, the Unifi reference has biamp capabilities, or bi-wire. Yeah, they're both braced well. They're both good looking. I love them. It's super hot in here with all the lights because I'm trying to look nice and professional on these videos. But man, I'm sweating. I need some Sasquatch 1000. Anyway, all right, soundstage and imaging. Soundstage and imaging, both great. Both great. I had these, so I put these in my big living room, which has really tall ceilings, open concept. Had them on, actually, purpose-made speaker stands. I've never had real speaker stands before. I've always just put them on bar stools or something that I made out of plywood and then glued and screwed together. So this is the first ever time I had speaker stands. Do they make a significant difference? I don't know. But they look nice and they're very heavy, so they're very good. Monoprice. I'll link them in the description. They're really good. They're like 60 bucks a piece. Anyway, had these in the same position about 3 feet from the back wall, towed in directly at me. For soundstage and imaging, I just listened to quite a bit of stuff, but I did use the usual suspects, Wherever I May Roam by Metallica. They both soundstage and image well. What I did notice is the soundstage for the Unifi reference goes a bit up. So I listened to pretty much the entire record of Korn Unplugged, MTV Unplugged. It's very good, actually. I challenge you to go listen to it. It's nice. Anyway, Jonathan Davis's voice from the references sounded higher than it did on the Unifi references, sounded higher than it did on the debut references. Overall, I feel like the Unifi reference, I'm going to mess this up, Unifi reference imaged better. They both soundstaged very well, but I didn't notice that, like, it wasn't like the debut reference was bad. It was when I put the Unifi reference up that I just noticed the Unifi reference is better. So it's better. I don't necessarily think from a width soundstage perspective, but definitely from a vertical soundstage perspective, I felt like the Unifi was quite a bit better. Imaging on both is the same, but imaging just felt like it was more locked in with the debut reference. Let's talk about bass. Bass. So, I listened to, again, a whole bunch of stuff, but Intergalactic, I was in a big room, right? So it wasn't like these things were going to fill up the room, but I was surprised at just how much they did fill up the room. So bass extension, actually bass presence is going to go actually to the debut reference. I feel like the debut reference had a more apparent bass presence. However, I don't think it's nearly as neutral as the Unifi reference. The Unifi reference for me gave me more of what the song gave you. So on Intergalactic, it gave me big and deep bass as far as extension. Highway to Hell gave me very tight bass. The bass presence on the debut reference was just greater, more apparent there. As far as tone and texture, I played So What off of Kind of Blue album by Miles Davis. They both did a great job. However, I think the Unifi reference had better bass clarity, if that's such a thing. I just felt like there was more detail. More detail on the Unifi reference. Let's talk about midrange. Midrange. This is going to be kind of just like a retread of both. Well, I don't remember doing the review on the debut reference. I'd have to watch it back. But the Unifi reference I did just recently. There's a theme, and that theme is the Unifi reference is very neutral and very detailed. The debut reference is richer, not as detailed, more lush, if you will. There's so much more detail in the Unifi reference than there is with the debut reference. I'm not saying that the debut reference doesn't sound good in the mid-range, and I don't think it's rolled off or scooped out in the mid-range. Rolled off, that doesn't really make any sense. I don't think it's scooped out in the mid-range on the debut reference. There's just not as much detail. Both female and male vocals sound quite nice on the debut reference. There Will Be Time by Mumford & Sons sounded great. When I put the Unifi references up, it just sounded more detailed. The upper registers walk the line of being almost too much. And my experience with speakers are speakers that have a bump or a little bit more activity go on from the rest of the frequency response around 1800, 2K, basically between about 1500 to 2500. Can be fatiguing. These are not fatiguing, so please don't have that takeaway. These are not fatiguing, the Unifi reference. They sound similar to speakers that have been fatiguing. So they walk that line and then they bring it back. The debut reference doesn't seem as fatiguing at all. And this is really a function of really the treble more than their mid-range. What I'm saying is the top end of the mid-range is very detailed and almost feels like it's going to get fatiguing, and it never does. Probably should have saved that for treble. Let's talk about treble. There's a lot more going on in the treble with the Unifi reference than there is with the debut reference. Just so much more detail, so much more sparkle, so much more activity, more air. Not to say that the debut reference doesn't have air, it just doesn't have it like the Unifi reference. So what? Miles Davis, the cymbals just felt more real. Realer. More real. I never felt like the debut references were rolled off on top. It wasn't until I put the Unifi references up that I noticed a big difference. And that difference is, again, in detail retrieval. I feel like the debut reference may be buttering up the cymbals a bit. And I don't have a problem with that. Frankly, before I heard the Elac Unifi reference 2.0 or UB52, and I heard this one, I never got a neutral enough speaker that wasn't fatiguing. I gravitated more towards buttery speakers because I didn't have any of that fatigue. With the Unifi reference, I get all the detail, all the activity I would off of a metal dome tweeter or an AMT tweeter without any of the fatigue. And that's what I really love about the Unifi reference. The debut reference is good, does not have nearly as much detail as the Unifi reference. What are my final thoughts? Make no mistake, the debut reference is an excellent speaker. It is slightly warmer, a little bit more lush, is kind of translating the bass a little bit more than the Unifi reference. When I say translate, I just mean it's kind of voiced, not neutral. It's a little bit happy on the bottom. It's a big trunk, junk in the trunk. They are both fantastic, but they are definitely two different flavors of speakers. The debut reference is warmer. The Unifi is cleaner, clearer, neutral, better soundstage, better speaker. It's also significantly more expensive. If you don't have the debut reference, then I may push you towards the Unifi reference if you like a neutral speaker. If you like a little bit warmer speaker, then the debut reference is probably the way to go. The thing about it is, though, most of the time people don't like neutral speakers or lively speakers because there's fatigue. There is no fatigue with the Unifi reference. That's the wonderful thing about it, is there's no compromises. I get all the detail and clarity I want. I get all the mid-range that I want, and I get all the bass that I want, and I have no fatigue. Both fantastic speakers. If I had to do it over again and I got to spend time with both of these, I would save up and get the Unifi reference. Personally, that's just me. I like clarity. Debut reference is great, still one of my favorite speakers. And frankly, when I started listening to it again, I had a friend over. I feel like a kid. I had a friend over last weekend. Anyway, he wanted to listen to the debut reference, and I put him up, and I was like, man, I can't believe how good these are. I don't remember them being this good. And even when I put them in the big room, I was listening to them, and I was like, wow, these are really fantastic. And then I put because I haven't listened to the Unifi references for a little while. When I put the references up, I'm just like, ugh. Both of them, ironically, play very well in a big room. Both of them have plenty of bass. I did add in a sub in my bigger room, not on all tracks and not while I was, doing my little notes. Both speakers benefit from a subwoofer, but you would be amazed at how much bass these both make in a ginormous room, especially if you get them closer to the wall. I had them out, and so it was kind of like the speakers were naked. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have patron-only Zooms. We also have patron-only content. We also have a patron-only Facebook group. Kind of. I think some people get in there that aren't patrons. It's all right. You can also sign up for Amazon Music. In the description, there'll be a link. Amazon HD Music is now part of Amazon Music. Ironically, too, I was listening to a Amazon Fire TV stick that I made into an endpoint for Amazon Music to listen to these. So it was pretty cool. So don't binge watch anything, binge listen and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the cheap audio man.